Hey guys, welcome to our first lecture together in LP Kogo. Let's dive right in. We're going to tackle chapter 1. It's quick, it's simple, it's going to be the basis for everything that we work on in this course. So it's nothing big and important, right? Okay, let's tackle it. We've got this. We've got 3 main topics in chapter 1. What is comparative politics? Political institutions, and we need to be reconciling freedom and equality. And I know what you're thinking already. You're sitting at your couch, you're sitting in your bed, you're sitting at home, and you're thinking, Mr. C, those are pretty big words. It's the first week of this class. I don't know about this. I got you. I got your back. You're going to get this. All this stuff, you are going to get this. I'm here for you, okay? I'm here for you. Hang with me, my friends. Hang with me. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, right side up, upside down. You're gonna pass the AP test if you just hang with me, okay? You're gonna pass. Let's get started. Chapter 1, what is comparative politics? Okay, so what is comparative politics? In book speak, comparative politics is the study and comparison of domestic politics across countries. Let's break that down. Let's make it work for us, okay? We're going to look at the domestic politics, and that's going to be the internal workings of the government of 6 different countries. The United Kingdom, Russia, Iran, Nigeria, Mexico, China. Okay, those are the 6 we're going to look at. We're going to look at the domestic politics. How do they run their governments? Okay, why did they set it up that way? Who's in charge? How does it work? That's domestic power. We're going to look at that. Who's in charge? Who has that power? Okay? We're then going to compare and contrast those 6 different countries, those 6 cases, and we're going to hear them. We're going to look at the different regimes. We're going to look at elections. How do they run elections? Their cultures, their economic development, all these different things. How did they get to be where they are today? Okay? One misconception about comparative politics now is that we're going to be comparing the trade between these 2 countries, or we're going to be looking at these 2 countries don't like each other, so they're at war with each other. These 2 countries fear each other. That's not what we're talking about here. That would be international relations. Okay? It's international relations. That's how countries get along. It's not what we're looking at. We're looking at how is the country run. Okay? And then we're going to look at how do these countries compare in how they are run. Okay, so that's not, international relations is going to be different than comparative politics, and we're not going to confuse the 2. Okay, so comparative politics, how does it work? Why are we looking at it? Let's take a look. All right, there's 3 core comparative concepts that we are going to be looking at when we're looking at these countries in this course. That is politics, power, and institutions. Now, political scientists like to say that the study of politics is the study of power. Okay, and if that's true, then comparative politics is going to be politics. What we're going to study the pursuit of that power. How are people gaining that power, and how are they holding on to that power? Okay. Our book definition of politics is going to be the struggle for power that will give one or more persons the ability to make decisions for a larger group. Okay, so the struggle for power. So if we look at the United States, okay, the struggle for power is between the Republicans and the Democrats. And what are they fighting for? Control of the larger group, the United States of America. Okay, so that's going to be what we're going to look at. So in my AP US government class, we use Harold Laswell's definition of politics, and this might help you out as well. It's who gets what, when, and how. Okay, so that's what we're going to be looking at. Who gets what, who gets that power, how do they get that power, and how are they going to use it? So who decides who gets what? Who decides how people get their what? Okay, and so we're going to look at those different things. Now, power is the next thing we want to look at. Politics we just looked at. Power we can define as the ability to influence others or impose your will on them. Okay, as a teacher, I have some power over you, right? I have some power over you. I hold your grade, and so I can get you to read. I can get you to watch my videos. I can get you to take a test, okay? Because I have that power over you. I can influence you. I have something to hold over you, Okay. Now, my power ends there. I don't have any influence on government spending or on international relations. Okay. I use my abilities to impose my will on my students. Okay, and so the government officials are going to impose their will on the people. Now, whether that's good or bad is all up for debate. Okay, whether it's imposing their will might be stopping murders, which is a very good thing. Okay, or it could be keeping people from rising up, and that maybe that's not such a good thing. Okay, and so power is going to be that ability to influence or impose your will on other people. All right, our third one that we're looking at is institutions. Institutions. Okay, institutions are organizations or activities that are self-perpetuating and valued for their own sake. That's the textbook definition. Now, what the heck does that even mean, right? Okay, we're going to break it down a little bit, and we're going to look at institutions a little bit more in depth in our next section here. So hang with me. We're almost there, folks, okay? I like what your dictionary, not your dictionary, but your dictionary, a website, says about institutions. It defines institutions as a group of people who have come together for a common purpose or cause, okay? That's what an institution is. Now, if we look at our United States Congress, that is an institution of government. That is a group of people, 535 people, who have come together for a common cause, and that's to make laws for the United States of America, okay? So an institution is just going to be a group of people coming together for a common cause, some reason that they want to, something that they want to accomplish together. Okay, when we are studying comparative politics, there are three common approaches to studying this, okay? The first, we have the qualitative method, qualitative with an L. In this method, we use an in-depth investigation of a limited number of cases. What we're going to do is we're going to dive deep into one or two or maybe three cases at the most. We're going to dive in deep with interviews. We're going to go through historical records. We're going to really get in with what are we observing in this country, okay, or this case if we're doing something smaller than a country. So what's going on? We're going to get really deep in. Now, the disadvantage here is going to be we're stuck with one or two countries, three countries maybe, and we're going to have to extrapolate from those. Okay. Now, if we wind up picking the United Kingdom and France and the United States, for example, that they have a lot of things in common, and so we're not going to find out things about Nigeria or Mexico or Iran where things are very, very different, okay? And so there are some disadvantages to the qualitative, but what we're going to do is we're going to find out a lot about those countries, okay? Now, the second type of approach is quantitative with an N, okay? Quantitative. Quantitative method, with this method, the comparatist is going to use numbers, statistical data, and they're going to look at a lot of cases, as many as they can get their hands on, and then get to look at averages, look at median, look at means, look at all those different mathematical fun stuff, right? Okay, well, this isn't stats class, don't worry, we're not going to go there, okay? The advantage here, though, is that the observer can compare many, many cases at once. But qualitative methodologists, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, we disagree that this is a good way to go. And it's not just because this is the way that I do it. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, you just have topical data. You have this boring day-to-day, here's how many people live in the country. Here's how many people own a telephone. Here's how many people, here's what the infant mortality rate is. Things along those lines. And they're going to say, it's not getting to causality. It's what's causing these things that you're seeing. Okay, so qualitative is going to dig deep and find those causes and really know about one or two or three cases. Or quantitative, it's going to be very broad, but we're not going to be able to dig nearly as deep. Okay, so we can get the difference between those two. Okay, our third type is game theory, oftentimes called rational choice theory. Okay, the game theory approach emphasizes how actors or organizations behave in their goal to influence others. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of observe what's going on and be able to maybe make some predictions. So we're going to look at the rules of the game. Okay, so maybe we're going to look at the United States Constitution. That's our rule book, right? And so we're going to look at that, and then we're going to be able to then, using that, make some predictions based on how people are voting in elections, based on the color of their skin, and maybe things that are happening in the news, and things along those lines. They're going to use the rule book, and then they're going to make predictions based on what they're observing people doing and how they're using the rules to their advantage, or maybe having the rules used against them. Okay, so in game theory, we're able to make some predictions on the future, where with quantitative and qualitative, we're kind of looking at what's happened in the past. So it's a very different approach. None is better than another. All of them have advantages, all of them have disadvantages. We want to know those three: quantitative, qualitative, and game theory. Okay. So there are some problems no matter what type we use. We talked about some of the disadvantages, but let's broadly look at kind of some of the difficulties that comparative political scientists are going to have. Okay, so traditional sciences like physics, chemistry, biology, etc., they often have an advantage that they're able to control their laboratory. Okay, they can change one variable and see what happens. Now that doesn't happen for political scientists, right? Okay. In the political scientist world, people are going to be kind of the variable, and you can't control people. You can only kind of make observations and things. Countries have economies and cultures and geographies and resources, political structures, and they're so highly diverse that it's very difficult to control just one change in variable. And so we have a related problem to this called multi-causality. What happens when a lot of these variables are interconnected? Okay, they interact to produce particular outcomes. So variations in things such as countries' gun control laws, or whether countries are a democracy or tend to be produced by multiple interrelated factors rather than one simple explanation. So in America, our gun control issues, we're looking at the Second Amendment, and we have people in Alaska and people in places like that really, they feel like they need their guns because they need protection from maybe wild animals. We have people in Illinois who like to go hunting. Okay, we have different views in different parts of the country, and that's what kind of makes everything kind of messy when we look at gun control. Okay, nobody wants to see mass shootings, but how do we stop it? And so there's not just a here's what the problem is. Okay, and so we have multi-causality. This problem should not be confused with endogeneity, okay, which occurs when variables may act as both cause and effect in relationship to one another. Okay, so multi-causality is just the cause. Okay. Political scientists also face a lot of challenges in gathering data. Comparative researchers may face challenges in gathering the information that they need because of language difficulties. If you're going to Tibet, maybe you don't speak that same language, and so you're going to have trouble gathering the information that you wish to have. Okay, maybe it's technology limits. Maybe you're out somewhere and you don't have internet access. Okay, you can't look up things. All these different things make for a difficult situation for political scientists. As a result, this tends to narrow the focus to an individual study. Okay, so you're going to kind of narrow things down to a comfort level. Now the problem becomes here then is selection bias. Scholars must also be careful that the way they select cases does not lead them to bias in their studies. So for example, if I assume that all countries do X, Y, and Z, and then I pick a country that does X, Y, and Z as my study, it's going to prove, yes, that happens, but maybe that's the only country that does it that way, okay? But I'm so narrowly focused that I'm not going to have that, so I have that selective bias there, okay? Comparative researchers may seek to control extraneous variables and improve their data gathering focus by engaging in area studies. Okay, area studies would be maybe you're going to stick to Europe, maybe you're going to stick to China and the surrounding countries there. So they're going to focus on a region or even an individual country. area studies, unfortunately, limit the generalizations of the findings and tend to overrepresent the place that you're looking at. So if you're looking at Europe, you might find some very vast things. If we're looking at United Kingdom to Greece to Rome to Poland to Sweden, there's very different cultures that are happening there, but still not going to be very different. Still going to be very different than what you're going to maybe find in Africa or in South America. Okay, we want to take a look at institutions a little bit closer now. We said we were going to do that in a minute, and that minute's here. Okay, so we can break down institutions into two separate types. Now, the language here is a little bit tricky, so just hang with me. We have formal institutions and informal institutions. Okay, we went crazy on this one. Hope you can keep it straight. Formal and informal institution. A formal institution is going to be clear, concise, kind of official. Okay, here's what's supposed to happen. Informal institutions, think of unwritten rules. Okay, so let's look at baseball. Baseball is one of my passions. Okay, so it's easy to come up with an example from baseball. We can look at what used to be known as the neighborhood play. Okay, in the neighborhood play, what's going to happen is if a runner's on first base and he's running to second base on a ground ball, if he can make it to second base before the person with the ball can touch second base, he's safe. If he can't, then he is out. Okay, so what used to happen is to avoid injury, where we've got two people coming together at the base, as long as the person with the ball kind of was near second base, that person will be called out. Okay, so the formal rules say that the defensive player has to touch the base if he's holding the ball for the runner to be out. Now, the informal rules say as long as he's somewhere close, we're going to call him out. That way we're going to avoid injuries and things like that. Okay, so formal rules versus informal rules is a good way to think about formal institutions and informal institutions. Okay, so how the informal rules and the formal rules are often going to clash. Okay, they're going to clash with each other. Like many parts of this course, we're going to see that formal and informal, it's going to differ from whatever country you're in. Okay, we're going to look at what's formal in one country, maybe informal in another. It might be unheard of in our third country. Okay, so we're going to be able to compare these institutions along the way. When institutions are threatened, people will rush to their defense. Okay, as they are the bonds that hold society together. These institutions are. Okay, not all institutions, however, are written down. For example, in the United States Senate, the filibuster exists as a norm, as a constitutional rule. But any attempt, it's not in the Constitution. The filibuster, if we look through the entire Constitution, through the 7 articles, through the amendments and the preamble, the filibuster is not listed. But if we try to get rid of the filibuster, we're going to meet with a lot of resistance. Okay, these institutions are ingrained in our society. Now, sometimes an informal institution might actually be formalized just so that we can keep it. For example, for over 100 years, the tradition was going to be if you were the president, you would serve no more than 2 terms, and that was the precedent that was set by George Washington. Well, FDR comes along in the 1930s and 40s, and he continues to run for president, and he is elected 4 different times, and so he has a chance to serve as much as 16 years in doing so. Okay. After that, we decided we're going to put it in writing that says you can only serve up to 2 terms. So what was informal became formal. Okay. We can look at some examples of formal institutions here, like citizenship or electoral systems. Whether we have a federal system or a unitary system, those would be formal institutions. Those are official. This is what we have established. Okay. We can also look at informal institutions. We talked about the filibuster. We can look at societal norms for gender relations, or gender roles. In this country, here is what women are expected. But if we go to Iran, it's going to be very different. If we go to Nigeria, if we go to each of these countries, what's it going to look like? Okay, so these are just a few of the interactions with our institutions that we're going to be taking a look at and comparing between our 6 cases. All right, to the good stuff. This is the stuff you already know, right? Liberty and equality, you got that stuff down, right? They're the same thing, right? Not even close, okay? No way. These are very separate concepts that often get intertwined together, and we're going to take a look at why, okay? Freedom is defined as an individual's ability to act independently without fear or restriction or of punishment by the state or other individuals or groups in society, okay? So we can do what we want without repercussions. Equality is a shared material standard of living, shared by individuals within a community, society, or country. That means my living is similar to the person across the street from me, compared to the person down the street from me, compared to the person across the tracks from me, okay? We know that's not the way it is around our country, right? In our country, we've got a pretty good amount of freedom, right? You have the freedom of speech. You can go out and say what you want. You can protest the government. There's a lot of things that you can do, okay? You have a lot of freedoms. The Bill of Rights lists many of them for us, right? So we've got a lot of freedoms. However, I think we all know that we do not have equality when it comes to economic standards. Okay? Economic standards, we're very different people. There are people who have billions of dollars and people who are living on the streets. And so we lack that level of equality there. Okay? And so equality and freedom are very separate, even though they're often tied together by circumstances. This debate between more equality and more freedom is going to keep popping up in our cases as we travel through this semester together, where we're seeing countries, how are they going to balance this? Are they going to take away some freedoms in order to have some equality, or are they going to take away some equality in order to have freedoms? Where's that balancing act going to be? And we're going to continue to compare these as we go through our semester together. All right, folks, that's about it for Chapter 1. That wasn't so bad, right? Okay. As you read Chapter 1, make sure that you pay particular attention to a couple of different things, okay? Make sure you pay attention to the problems in comparative research. We touched upon a little bit of that in the lecture, right? Okay. I want you to look at the major thinkers. We've got Machiavelli, we've got Aristotle, and John Locke, and Hobbes, and there's several there in the chapter. Make sure you're looking at those as well. We didn't talk about those in the lecture, okay? Make sure you're looking at the methods for comparing countries and institutions. Okay, so make sure you're putting a little bit more emphasis and maybe reading those areas a little bit closer than maybe some of the other parts of the chapter. Okay, we'll see you in the next chapter when we're going to start looking at states. And so until then, remember, it's us versus the test, guys, and we're going to win. Let's do this.